And so now I'm going to call on, I'm going to introduce Russ, who as our day chair will then introduce our speaker. Russ Michalutz is sort of an all-star in the Rotary world. He was former president of this Rotary Club from 2008 to 2009. And he was district governor of our district 5950 from 2019 to 2020. Russ's main focus now, as you can read at russmichalutz.com, is around the needs of family businesses who have a desire to be multi-generational. His 40 years of experience as a CPA with Arthur Andersen and Deloitte Tax, serving family business owners and training as an attorney, he's currently inactive, make his financial-based approach to family business consulting one that finds win-win solutions for the owners and the business. He has a BA from Gustavus in accounting and a JD from the University of Minnesota Law School. He also teaches business law at Gustavus. Let's welcome Russ Michalutz.
It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Meg Forney, who is a commissioner of Minneapolis Park System and the president of the commissioners. So we're very grateful to have her here today. Let me tell you a little bit about her because it's an interesting story. When we moved into our first house in South Minneapolis, in 11th Avenue South, within 2 years, all the elms on our street were gone. And Meg had the same type of experience, which drove her, as opposed to me, to be active about it, to be an activist about the quality of the greenery in Minneapolis. And so for years, she has been endeavoring to try to move forward the face of Minneapolis from a nature standpoint. But she comes from a heritage. She's a fourth generation Minneapolis person. Her great-grandfather was, both of them were involved in the milling industry, and grandmother started the Linden Hills Park Association, I believe. So great heritage of serving the park. The background of her education is Edina Morningside. She was the last class to graduate from Edina Morningside High School, and then went on to the University of Minnesota. She's in her third term on the Park Commission for Minneapolis, and so let's give a very warm Rotary welcome to Meg Forney.
Well, thank you, Russ, for that introduction, and thank you all for having me here. I'd like to know a little bit about you guys. First of all, how many of you live in the city of Minneapolis? How many of you have gone swimming in one of the lakes? How many of you have driven on one of our parkways? I'm assuming every single one of you has actually driven on one of our parkways, because one's right below us, okay? They're everywhere. And so that's what I'm here to talk about, is our lakes and our parkways. First of all, I probably should indicate to you that, yes, I'm in my third term, and this is a delightful term because the members, my fellow commissioners and everything, as I like to say and everything, are adults. I don't know how much you guys follow government and everything like that, but that's a rarity. And it's really true. Unfortunately, sorry to be political, but the reason why I say that is because they are about basics. They really are about the fundamentals of our system and everything. And that's why they took on these two initiatives that we are pursuing. And they are parkways and stormwater. They are just really kind of in their own way, very unsexy types of things and everything, but that's what they're about because they have not been attended to for quite some time. So I will tell you, I need you to know that this was put together by myself, but also with my colleague, Kathy Abeni, who happens to be a civil engineer in stormwater at the University of Minnesota. So it's got a lot more detail than what I would put in, but I will try and go forward more quickly than she would. So anyway, back in 1997, the city and the park board got together and said, you know, let's try and be a little bit more efficient. Okay. And let's try and instead of having two separate construction for our parkways, as I just indicated and everything, instead of having two separate groups that deal with our trees, all of our public trees and everything. Okay, so the park board took over all public trees, okay, and the city said that they would take over our parkways. Okay, so that was 1997 is when we started talking about this shared service agreement. Okay, anyway, so there's a report on it and everything like that. We've got one council member who is still on, who actually signed this, and that happens to be the council member for this area, Lisa Goodman. Anyway, so a lot of things have happened, but at the same, oh, sorry, wrong way. But a lot of things have not happened. So we took over the responsibility, like I say, of all of our trees, but they also said that they will take care of all of our parkways. Okay. Plus also they said they would take care of stormwater. So, oh, and lighting, excuse me, pavement and lighting. Okay. So the first initiative that this board is approaching is to repave, restore, and reinvest in our parkways. Okay, so as far as our current pavement condition, it's pretty miserable. Would most people agree with me? Since you probably, okay. All right, so this is where it shows in a lot of headlines throughout this past year how horrible it is. I thank Mother Nature for all those potholes because it really, you know, resonated to everybody. It amplified just how bad our parkway system is. So this is just a nice little view of that. And that happens to be St. Anthony Parkway. Not knowing where all of you live, I would say the majority of people would probably say that Lake Harriet, the parkway around that is the worst. No, this is the worst, is up in St. Anthony Parkway. And I believe there's, I can't remember how many miles, but anyway, that yes is because of, you know, the freeze and the thaw. We go in and we patch it, but that's not dealing with the issue. So we need to do preventative maintenance, okay? But also we need to do reconstruction. So we've been doing a study as to, you know, what are, you know, the seriousness, you know, of our parkways. I'm very grateful for my staff and everything for really digging deep into it. So once again, I'm going to get into way too much, but basically the city has been investing, well, back 2000 was when it actually started, $750,000. Sounds like a lot, okay? Same exact amount, basically averaging for the past 23 years. That's all they have been putting towards our 55 miles of parkways. So that's what we're trying to address, is that you guys said that you were going to take over it at the rate that we're doing, at the rate that the city is doing. It would take 100 years before all of those parkways would be dealt with. Okay. I'm not going to be around 100 years from now, but I can tell you that's not what we want as far as our legacy. So this is an indication of how much money has been put aside. What they call it is the PV001 at the budget at the city. Scott Benson possibly has seen something like this before, but anyway. So our average increase, though, like I say, has been only, no, wait a second, I'm reading that wrong. Sorry, I'm not going to try and interpret this one. So this shows you where all of our parkways are, and it tells you by the color coding and everything what the degree of issue is there. So you can see up at the top, that's where St. Anthony is, the parkway and everything. That's where the most red is in the entire system. And that, at the rate that they are doing it, would take 12 years, because right now they are doing between a third of a mile and a half a mile a year. That's it. Okay. In our 55 miles, as I've indicated. So anyway, that shows you what the condition is throughout. And here is, what is this one? I'm sorry. Like I say, this is Kathy's stuff and everything. Anyway, how long it would take. for the percentage at the present rate that things are happening. So over 50 years, way over 50 years it would take. So at about 41 to 50, that 66% of our parkways would still not have been addressed. So this shows you the various indications of very poor, whatever. Anyway, so you can see that, what is it? Like, I can't remember. So it's over 30% is in fair to poor to very poor condition at this present time. Very unsexy stuff and everything. But you know, as far as the pleasure of going on a parkway and everything, it is about finding a little bit of serenity. And when you hit a pothole, it doesn't give you that. So this is how we are, the present investment of how long it would take before we would be able to deal with anything. At the current funding level, it would take 12 years to address the very poor segments and will result in all parkways becoming unsafe and undrivable in approximately 15 years. So we want to reverse that scenario, okay, by asking the city, would you please ramp it up just a tad and everything? So there's several scenarios that we could look at. What we're looking at is actually the middle one, to do it over a course of 40 years. So that would be 2 miles per year, okay? So if we do nothing, like I say, okay, 2 miles, and then using the data, okay. So, now this is, how we can address it over 30 years. So initially there's going to be quite a spike as far as being able to address that. And then eventually it will level off. And that's the whole intent. Let's make this, a easy, way to approach it by getting it into a cadence. Okay, see now. Oh, yes, we took a survey. I apologize. Okay, we took a survey and the majority of people indicated, yes, they would pay extra in their real estate taxes, okay, to address this, because they realize how important it is to have our parkways up to a condition that everybody isn't going to lose their axle. Seriously, we've gotten a lot of reports of that. So we did pass a resolution. Okay, this was back in, I believe it was in April. Okay, to ask the city if they would ramp up the amount of money that they are putting towards the rehabilitation of our parkways. Okay, we asked for $6 million. The city has come back to us and they said, well, we've done some analysis and we think it might be a little bit cheaper. We're fine if it's cheaper. We are totally fine with that and everything. We just wanted it addressed. So we're in the conversation, we're in the room, but it still has not been agreed to. So our next thing is stormwater. Okay. So what I love to show is this picture. And I think it's appropriate, speaking to the City of Lakes Rotary Club and everything, that we are known as the City of Lakes. Okay. But what this caps is what we want to address. And that happens to be our stormwater system. So there is sewage, but then there's also stormwater. So when the rain, comes down and everything like that, where does that water go? Right now, the city is addressing everything that is under their streets, but they have not put one single solitary penny towards what's going towards parklands and park waters. So has anybody ever seen this one? Okay, this happens to be Bryant, and between like Bryant and Hennepin Avenue, okay, was a huge collapse of the stormwater system and everything. But it tells you just how important what's underneath those parkways, what's underneath those streets, and the fact that we don't know what else, where's all that water going to. So this gives you a little bit of the cute version, as it says, okay, of how water, goes, okay? And the fact that it goes, off of your front lawn, okay, into the sewer system or into the stormwater system, and eventually it will end up at our lakes. That's what we want to mitigate. That's what we are responsible for. That's what this board says. We want to deal with the basics. This is what's going into the Mississippi. So I don't know if anybody knows where this is, but this is right by St. Anthony Falls. Okay. So that's the type of thing that we want to address right now. So this shows you where all of the stormwater systems are throughout the city that are in park lands that have, like I say, not been addressed by the city. And so that's what we really want to be dealing with, but we really don't know what is underneath our park land. So initially what we need to do is we need to map where are all of the outfalls, where are those things going to? And so that's what we initially want to do. And then slowly we will then start to deal with what is going on to our park lands and into our park waters. Right now, the city, what they deal is conveyance. It's about them just how can we get our water, off of streets as fast as we can onto parkland and park waters. But anyway, they are not addressing though the end result. So right now, once again, we have a shared responsibility and it's through a permit. And that permit, we are a co-permittee. So we are responsible for this, okay? So that's why since 1999 and everything, we have been on this permit. But like I say, the city nor us have been able to address anything that has to do with what goes onto our park lands and park waters. So, this is a measurement of what is, the water quality right now. It is right now impaired. There's definitely a situation of we have greatly impaired water quality. What does this say? Yeah, so the most impaired is Cedar and Spring Lake. Those are the two that are the most impaired, but all of ours need to have definitely the water quality needs to improve because we are the city of lakes after all. So this is just an example of what and how we would address it. So right now, this happens to be my bill. Okay, so where the yellow line is, it's called stormwater. And back was it in I think it's 99, but I'm not positive. Maybe it was 2000. Okay, that the city put an assessment onto your bill, okay, of $6 per unit. So that's an average city lot. I happen to be 1.25 unit. Okay, so it's now up to $14.45 per unit, okay, that you pay or we pay, whoever happens to be a property owner here, anyway, pays to address stormwater, okay? What we want to do is we want to add $2, that's it, onto this bill so that we can start to address it, and with what we call escalation. So to make sure that instead of $750,000 for 23 years, that it would be increased, over time with inflation. So that's what we are looking for. And asking the city, because the city is there's only 2 utilities in the state of Minnesota, and Minneapolis is one. So we would need to be on their bill in order for us to receive money that we are responsible for, the stormwater. Anyway, so the new approach and everything. So the city collects 45.2 million, excuse me, anyway, in stormwater fees. And so what we are asking right now, okay, we are receiving, I should take that back. We receive 700,000, but the $700,000 that we are receiving is that we do the monitoring, monitoring, am I saying that right? Anyway, stormwater and also education activities and everything. That's what we are reimbursed on the stormwater bill. Okay, is that 700,000, but nothing to address the actual issue of the stormwater going onto parklands and park water. So anyway, there is a critical need to cover these. And like I say, what we have asked for is for $2 on the stormwater bill. So, yep, here it is, 2,000, which would result in $5 to $6 million annually. And like I say, with inflation built into that. And so the funds would be for us to figure out, where are, all of our pipes, where are all of the grit chambers, where are those things? And then to start to actually do the physical work, the capital infrastructure, and to improve our water quality for recreation, for shoreline, and for stream bank stabilization. I mean, I don't know how much you guys walk the trails and everything, but a lot of them get washed out. And it is because of the stormwater. We've also lost some bridges because of stormwater as well. So that is the type of thing that we need to be mitigating. So like I say, these are some examples of where it has declined substantially, and we need to make sure that that doesn't happen. So we made a resolution also to ask the city if they would put $2 onto $2 onto the water bill. So we are presently in negotiation with the city on these things, because it is in the city's ball court to be able to address these issues. It's not something that we can do directly. So if any of you have any political poll, we are looking for, anything that we can do. The mayor at this point is about to bring forward his budget, which will be in the middle of August. Okay. Then after that, the city council then has to deal with it. So there are various steps along the way that we can still impact it. So your voice is needed. If any of you have any influence, you all do, because you all have a vote. So those are my nitty gritty types of things to share with you, and would love to answer any questions if you have any regarding these initiatives.
Hello, Meg. Sean Irwin. I do have a couple questions. I heard you say that it's not mapped yet at all.
Correct. We have what should we say? An idea, but where the pipes are exactly, we don't. So I live on the northwest corner, basically, of Batay-Makaska, and there's a huge athletic field that's there. There's lots of pipes. Where are they? Are they all connected? In what condition are they? That's the type of thing that we need to do as far as doing an audit.
That's okay. That seems terrible. They don't know that.
Yep.
Secondarily, the other question is, if I read it correctly, the city is collecting $42 million and only funding it to $700,000 park board.
Bingo.
So why should residents believe that if you have an additional $2 that the city just simply won't give you maybe $1.5 million and not contribute that $5 to $6 million to do the work you need to do? Because so far they're not giving the money to you that's allocated. It says stormwater on the bill, but that's not where it's going.
Right. So the $2 would be, as far as the condition of us being able to have that on the bill, that it would go directly to us. This one over there and one over here. You're certainly getting your steps in, aren't you?
Oh, yeah, I need to. Can't complain. You're next.
Thanks for being here. I'm Dean Sandberg. I'm curious, what's the difference between a parkway and a city street, and why would the city kind of distinguish how they fund them?
Okay, so maybe I should explain for those of you maybe who don't live in Minneapolis and everything. We are an independent governmental agency. Okay, it's probably we're one of the only probably in the United States. Okay, being totally independent from the city. So we own the parkways. Okay, but like I say, with this shared service agreement, we decided, okay, instead of having 2 construction crews, having 2 forestry crews, let's divide those. So does that help you? Right, and it's what we own. That's the land underneath it we actually own. That's a good question, if there's an actual definition, but we actually have a lower speed limit on the parkways. It's 20 miles an hour, whereas on a city street, it's 25 miles an hour. So there are distinctions here and there. We have different signage. But definitely we are responsible for those lands that the parkway is on.
Ed Cadet, I be a bit off topic, but in the last year, 2 years, there's been considerable time and neighborhood meetings on planning the parks, and I'm familiar with Lake of the Isles. Can you tell us a little bit about the status of that and what the long range efforts are going to be to see some of the things implemented?
Yes, thank you, Ed. Ed happens to live on Kenwood Parkway, so his is a very unique parkway. It's probably one of the widest roadways that we have in our whole parkway system. But anyway, so yes, we have what's called the Cedar Isles Master Plan. And the reason why, and I hate using the word master, but anyway, we are required by the Metropolitan Council to plan every 20 years, bring up to date and everything, any of our what's called metropolitan parks, okay? And a metropolitan park or regional park, excuse me, anyway, is by the amount of visitorship. So the chain of lakes actually is a metropolitan, a regional park, okay? Whereas something like Linden Hills, okay, that's a neighborhood park. And the funding for the neighborhood parks actually comes from your real estate taxes, whereas the regional parks, the funding all comes from the Metropolitan Council. And so we are required to do this planning every 20 years. And so we just got finished with the Cedar Isles Master Plan. And I can't remember exactly what it is, but of all of our plans that we have done of regional parks, right now, I believe it's something like 15% of those plans have actually been enacted. The farthest we've gotten with one of them, which was done 23 years ago, is actually, I believe, at like 60%. So when the plans are done, it doesn't mean tomorrow it all happens, okay? But it's giving a vision that we, the park system and everything, can start to plot forward to. And so that's what what's just happened with the Cedar Isle. So don't expect anything to be happening right away there. But as funding comes, as situations occur that, we can, pair some money together with an improvement, that's what we do. And we need those plans to, that vision to be able to hold, us accountable to what the community wants. Yes.
Yeah, thanks for waiting, Dave.
All right. There you go. Meg, it's great to have you here. And, it is really good to have adults now making decisions on the park board. Having served for 12 years on the Board of Investment Taxation, having worked with a number of people from the park board, a couple of really good ones and a couple of real ringers, it's really great that you're providing the leadership that we need. As a Duluth City Council member, we dealt with stormwater because of Lake Superior. And that was a huge issue because the hills are so steep that when we got a big heavy rainfall, all sorts of sewer would overflow and all sorts of things would go into Lake Superior. I think the stormwater thing is really important. I was really proud of the fact that when I was on the Board of Investment Taxation, that we partnered with the park board and we were able to put together that 20-year plan to redo streets and to redo, invest in our parks and do a lot. And that's made a huge difference. A 20-year plan, there isn't a city in the United States that had a 20-year plan to do those sorts of things. And I'm really, really proud of the fact we've done that. It seems to me, though, that there probably wasn't money in that plan for the parkways. It was just for Minneapolis city streets. Am I right in saying that?
Correct. Yes. Yes. Thank you, David, for that history and everything. Yes, we did enter into an agreement with the city to address all of our neighborhood parks. Like I say, kind of like Linden Hills, that type of thing is a neighborhood park. There was no funding and things hadn't been dealt with since the 50s. Yeah, it was pretty bad and everything. But we tried very hard to negotiate with the mayor at that time that if you're going to look at all of your streets, your city streets and everything like that, then also take on, our parkways. It was not allowed. So we have we have begged for over 20 years to get these addressed. And like I say, this board is incredibly serious about let's deal with the basics. And so we'll keep pushing. If we do not get it in the budget here being announced, like I say, by the mayor, the middle of August, we will continue to lobby. I hope we don't have to get to the point that we have a referendum, but that is always, a possibility. So like I say, this is really, really serious stuff, but it is like so unsexy. But It's so essential. And I'm just really proud of this group, you know, that they really want to work on it. And I'm honored. One of the things that Rustin mentioned was the fact that I am the oldest elected official in the city of Minneapolis, and I'm damn proud of it.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. We take for granted, don't we, what we have, the streets, the parkways, all that stuff, and there's governance around it, and it's just we're oblivious to it, the average citizen. So thank you so much for your service to protect, as a steward, the things that are important to us. We do have a modest gift as a city. As a park board commissioner, nobody look away now, because she's not going to receive this pen. It might disappear, but she's not receiving it from me. But she needs the pen because she's going to sign this book. This one's my father's dragon. This is for a fourth grader at that uses the facility as a way to grow in Minneapolis. And they would love to see your signature on their book that they receive from a leader in our community. So let's give another very thankful welcome to Meg. There you go.
Thank you.
And you can go on.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, like Russ says, there's so much going on in the city that we don't even know about. So I want to thank everyone who made the meeting happen today. We have Sheila was our greeter, Doug and our marvelous short and inspirational reflection. Russ is the day chair, Brock and Greg, as always, keeping us in our Zoom land, everything going smoothly. And Dick and Steve as our club administrators. I also want to thank our guests who are here, Sydney and Jasmina, who is still a guest, but just for a short time. It's great to have you both here with us. And congratulations and welcome to our brand new members. How exciting. We're delighted to have you. Another reminder about next week. Where are we going to meet? Doug's house. Don't come here on Wednesday. Go to Doug's house on Thursday at 6 in your small car with 2 of your friends to find a parking spot. And I noticed in my email this morning, it just came in from Meg, quarterly meetup. Assignments are out. So that's it's a tradition in our club to meet up with someone and have coffee or brunch or lunch or wine or whatever and get to know somebody a little bit better. So watch for that in your email as well. So with that, it's great to see you. Thanks for coming and have a great Rotary week.